Hey everyone, Tankenstein here. In this video I'll be reviewing the T-72AV Turms-T, a Russian premium tank that currently sits at 9.7 BR. I'll be going over everything about this tank, including its stats, roles, strengths, and weaknesses. I'll be giving a final recommendation on if you should purchase this tank or not. Additionally, being that there is oftentimes a War Thunder store bundle for the Turms and the KA-50 Black Shark helicopter together, I'll be giving a mini review at the end of this video for the KA-50 as well. Please subscribe if you have not done so already, as it helps out tremendously with growing my channel. But that being said, let's get into the reviews. So to start, let's go over the stats of the Turms, and currently it sits at 9.7 BR as mentioned before, though it could easily do well as a 10.0 BR vehicle. It has a top speed of 60 kilometers per hour, turret rotation speed of 14 to 20 degrees per second depending on crew, a reload speed of 7.1 seconds regardless of crew due to the autoloader, a 125mm 2A46M cannon with up to 479mm of armor pen in ideal situations, -6 to +13 degrees of gun depression and elevation, and 3 crew members. And finally, for armor, it has 110, 80, and 40mm of armor front, side, and rear for the hull, and for the turret, 125, 102, and 65mm again front, side, rear, although the armor values are increased via the Contact 1 ERA present on nearly the entirety of the Turms except for the rear of the tank. And now for its roles, well, it's pretty simple. The Turms is the definition of the main battle tank, at least insofar as premium tanks are concerned. It can do it all. While it isn't too fast and its acceleration really isn't amazing, the Turms can easily move with the team and, on occasion, be a somewhat competent flanker. Overall, however, the Turms fights best on the front lines, although behind cover, at least in an up tier. While the cannon and 3BM42 APF SDS ammunition is going to annihilate nearly every tank that you face, regardless of BR, it will not protect you against enemy APF SDS ammunition, and neither will your Contact 1 ERA. With a propensity of enemy tanks to hide at high BRs, you will be best to hide as well, although you should stay on the offensive if possible. Angled, especially when in a down tier, the Turms is still very difficult to pen from the front, and again, when in a down tier, you can act more aggressively, either going straight through the middle of the front lines or sticking to the sides. In a weird way, this is one of the most straightforward, old school tanks in the game, at least insofar as high BR tanks are concerned. It has good armor, mobility, and a great cannon, with Gen 2 thermals on both the gunner's and commander's sights. But aside from being able to see more clearly, the Turms functions pretty similarly to many lower BR tanks, just, well, at a high BR. I wish there was more to say about the role of this tank, but again, it does everything well, and aside from having somewhat mediocre mobility in the mud, it's just a great overall tank. And now with the role out of the way, let's get into some strengths and weaknesses, and as per usual, I will start with strengths. The Turms has an amazing cannon and overall armament between its regular cannon and HMG. Outside of a few errant shots that were ricocheted due to them being poorly angled on my part, I have no non-pens with this tank. This is largely due to the giant killing 3BM42 APF SDS ammunition that shoots through 479mm of armor in ideal circumstances, but that high level of pen also translates to having excellent pen in less than ideal circumstances. Second, if it stays at 9.7 BR, the Turms does not have to face 11.0 BR tanks, which is a huge advantage. It gets down tiered fairly often, and even in up tiers, it's still extremely competitive and will hardly be fully up tiered. Third, it has excellent ERA armor that nearly surrounds the entirety of the tank, making it so that Heat FS will almost always not be able to damage the Turms. Aside from the ERA, it has excellent composite armor on the upper glacis, making this a very difficult vehicle to beat from the front if you can angle properly, and again, especially if you're in a down tier. Fourth, it has a great autoloader that reloads every 7.1 seconds, regardless of crew skill and regardless of how many crew members are alive. In addition to this, it has fairly good mobility. It's not the fastest, but it still gets by. Just don't expect to cap nearly any bases, or really for the most part, don't expect to be the first person on the base to cap it. Sixth, it has great zoom for the gunner sights. 7th, it has commander sights that can use thermals, and commander sights also have good zoom. 8th, as mentioned before, as part of its overall armament, it has a good HMG, which actually can lead to some helicopter and IFV kills, and possibly the occasional plane kill, but really this is a great helicopter and IFV killer. And finally, it has premium RP and silver lion bonuses, which that's why everyone wants to buy premium tanks, right? And now for the weaknesses. The Turms has an awful reverse speed of only 4 km per hour. This makes it so that escaping a bad situation is extremely difficult. It does, however, have ESS, which makes escaping just a little bit easier, if nothing else. Second, it has a mediocre turret reverse speed, especially when compared to other similar BR premiums like the XM1, and even when compared to the Leopard A1 L44, although the disparity with the L44 is not quite as bad. Third, it only has 3 crew members, which makes it extremely easy for a crew kill against this thing. Fourth, its sides are poorly armored versus everything outside of Heat FS, and even still, it's a bit lacking for Heat FS protection used around this BR, just because some more advanced Heat FS can go through quite a bit of armor, even when it's ERA. The Turms' side armor is so poor that you will regularly be penned by APF SDS, even when at a sharp angle. Fifth, everyone will hate you and most of your team will be Turms players, meaning that when they die, they'll leave the game pretty much instantly, which might make it a little bit difficult to get wins in this. I myself have been pretty successful, but not everyone is that way, and I've seen people with a 30 or 40% win rate after dozens of matches. And last, it has no neutral steering, which makes hiding a little bit more difficult because you're going to be moving forward even just a little bit when trying to move side to side with the chassis. And now for my final recommendation on the Turms, and then I'll get into the mini KA-50 Black Shark review. I'd say that the Turms is one of the best tanks in game, especially when it comes to premiums. In fact, it's probably the best premium tank in game, at least as of the recording of this video. This is obvious by the fact that it does so damn well all the time, at least in the hands of a skilled player or an experienced player. Oftentimes they're one and the same. It is very difficult to not come away from a match with at least 1 or 2 kills if you're using this tank as how it should be used. In a down tier, the Turms reigns as king, while in an up tier, it still does very well and can challenge most enemy tanks even from the front. This for me is a must-buy tank due to its performance, BR, and position as a high-tier premium on the Russian tank tech tree, which will allow you to grind out the rest of the tank tech tree very quickly. Really, the only 3 reasons to not purchase the Turms are if you're not much into War Thunder, you don't have the available money to spend, or you're looking to focus on other tank tech trees. Aside from those reasons, there's very little reason to not purchase the Turms. It is absolutely insane as a tank, and unless you're somehow ambushed early in a match, as mentioned before, you're almost always going to get at least 1 kill, but likely 2 kills, or pretty likely more than that. This tank does the work for you, and it's baffling that it sits at 9.7 BR if we're looking at any reasons outside of monetary gain on Gaijin's part. If this is on sale, especially when bundled with a KA-50, this is a must buy. Speaking of the KA-50, I'll do a real quick mini review for the KA-50 now, just due to its propensity of being bundled with the Turms around major sales. So, the KA-50, otherwise known as the Black Shark, is a currently 10.3 BR premium attack helicopter for the Russians that features 12 ridiculously powerful ATGMs. Being that this is a mini review, I'll just go over a few strengths and weaknesses and then say whether or not I'd purchase this vehicle or not. So for strengths, the KA-50 features the NK-127 ATGMs, which have up to 1,000 millimeters of armor pen. It can be launched from 10 kilometers away, meaning that you can fire at a distance and stay away from danger, all while killing numerous enemy players. Second, it is very fast, meaning that it can reach the battlefield potentially quicker than other attack helicopters. It can also dodge missiles with ease, especially with its countermeasures. Speaking of countermeasures, it has automatic countermeasures against enemy anti-air missiles. Fourth, it has no tail rotor, meaning that you will be able to fly with some level of control even with major tail damage. And now for weaknesses. Despite having absolutely devastating ATGMs, they are direct fire, which means that they will impact any object between you and your target, whereas Hellfires gain altitude and then drop in on your target against weaker roof armor. This is beneficial, however, against other helicopters and some planes, as the NK-127 ATGMs track them pretty well. And for its second major weakness, I'd say while its cannon is potent, it is located on the side of the Black Shark, meaning that you will have a limited range of motion to use with it. And now for my final verdict. This is a great vehicle, and due to its high speed of 310 kilometers per hour, great maneuverability, and most of all, its ridiculous suite of ATGMs, I'd say that this vehicle is worth it. It is, however, a helicopter, and a lot of people are either not familiar with them or do not like using them. While the KA-50 is capable, it is definitely most capable in the hands of those who are good with helicopters. So be sure to test this out extensively in test drive before you decide to spend your money on it. But it could also be said that this plane largely flies itself, as it is easier to fly than nearly every other helicopter currently in game. If bundled on sale with the Turms, however, it makes this deal even sweeter and easier to dive into. The Black Shark is considered very much OP, and even in the hands of a novice, should still get a kill or two per match. Put concisely, however, this is an excellent helicopter and you should definitely purchase it if you have the money, especially if it's on sale and if you're comfortable with helicopters. For a more in-depth review on the KA-50, stay tuned as I plan on releasing one in the near future. But this all said, thanks so much for watching everyone, especially being that this is a double review. It's the first one of its kind for me. Please subscribe for more and let me know what you guys thought in the comments below. Either way, thanks again, and I'll see you all on the other side. Take care, everyone.